So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Daniela Markazi, and this summer I was a user researcher fellow at the General Services Administration, also known as the GSA, in the Office of Customer Experience. Today, I'll be talking about my project on sharing research insights across the GSA and understanding user needs and perspectives when doing so. Before I begin, I want to thank all of the amazing people within GSA's Office of Customer Experience, especially those who helped me with note-taking, synthesis, and project feedback. I also want to thank my wonderful Coding It Forward mentor this summer, Peggy. I learned so much from all of you, and I really appreciate your willingness to support this work. To start, I wanted to provide a bit of background information regarding the General Services Administration. The GSA is a very broad federal agency, and it does a lot of different things, including managing federal properties and buying and selling goods. This summer, I was in the Office of Customer Experience, where we aim to improve experiences for people within GSA. I also want to discuss key terminology for this presentation. Research insights can mean different things to different people, but for this project, research insights are the meaningful research takeaways, considerations, implications, and the so what part of a research project. Insights libraries, on the other hand, are ways to manage, store, and share research insights. As the GSA does a lot of different things, there's so much different research happening. Therefore, the purpose of this project was to essentially find a way to share research, findings, and actionable insights more effectively across GSA. And to do so, we wanted to articulate different user needs, understand if users would actually benefit from sharing research insights, and how and if people want to share insights. So for this project, I came up with four different research questions to address. First, what research insights libraries already exist within other organizations or agencies, and what do they look like? Next, if we were to create a GSA Insights library, who are the potential users and what are their needs? Also, what are the design considerations that can address users' needs? And lastly, what are recommendations for the next round of research? So, to start the project, I first conducted a preliminary literature review and a competitive analysis where I compared different insights libraries used in other organizations, as well as the platforms used to create the insights libraries. And when doing so, I was looking for strengths, weaknesses, and the targeted users of all of those libraries. Then I went on to do an interview study to learn more about people's thoughts regarding sharing research insights. And in total, I conducted 27 one-hour interviews with people from five GSA offices and five different federal agencies. This seems like a lot of interviews. And it is, but we were hearing so many different responses and information from different types of users. And so it took a long time to reach data saturation. For my interviews, I interviewed three types of participants. Firstly, we have our users. These are people at GSA that may want access to existing research or data in order to inform their work. I also interviewed subject matter experts or SMEs. These are people that may have experience using or setting up an insights library. And we really wanted to interview SMEs in order to get a better idea of what insights libraries actually look like. And also, I interviewed someone who was both a user, so they're at GSA, and a SME, so they have knowledge on insights libraries. To analyze my interviews, I first conducted something called thematic analysis, which is a qualitative research method that is typically used to identify, analyze, and interpret patterns or themes within a set of data. I transcribed all of my interviews and created tags or codes for sections of text that stood out to me or matched my research questions. From there, I use something called affinity diagramming, which is a method to organize and categorize large amounts of data or ideas by themes or similarities. To do this, I use a virtual whiteboard to take all of the codes from my transcripts and essentially move them into clusters, which then became my themes. And from my themes, I was able to create user personas or typical examples of the participants that I interviewed. Now, I'll discuss the key insights we learned from the project, including user personas I created, themes, the needs of users, and also design considerations. From this project, I created four types of user personas based on the different participants I interviewed. You have the researcher, senior executive, data analyst, and the academic. For a researcher, their goal is to access existing GSA research in a single centralized location to review what has already been conducted. However, their pain point is there's not a lot of knowledge sharing and management across the GSA. For the senior executive, their goal is to understand factors that may influence GSA program outcomes and also obtain a comprehensive view of stakeholder satisfaction. However, they may have limited time available for making data-driven decisions and recommendations. Next, we have the data analyst, where their goal was to identify previously asked questions in surveys and other more quantitative data. However, their pain point is that they spend a lot of time searching for resources in order to support their work. And lastly, we have the academic, where they want to create some sort of indexed current library that's easily searchable and provides clear context for each insight. However, the insights that are typically available in academic literature may be restricted or they may be insufficient. So from the analysis, I found five key themes for the project: findability, relevancy, and trustworthiness of the research insights, communication and culture when sharing research insights, and the time it takes to access research insights. As this presentation is only 10 minutes, I'm just focusing on one theme for today. However, if you're interested to learn more about the topic or about the other themes, feel free to let me know after the presentation because I have an hour-long version of the presentation that I'm happy to share. So again, for the theme of findability, I first have a quote from a data analyst that says, "I think the challenge is that you don't know what you don't know. There is no catalog of previous research." For the first insight, participants shared that their biggest challenge is not knowing what exists and not being sure where to look or who to talk to, because there is no system where one can easily see what has already been done. This can cause a reliance on word of mouth from people who conduct research. And so in this case, all of our users need to know what research already exists and how to find it. And the benefits include being able to build on past work and also potentially inform some strategic decisions. The next quote is from a researcher, and they say, "I'll just say I don't have all of this experience and knowledge of this field. There are lots of opportunities for us to share intelligence across GSA." So for the second insight under findability, making previous research visible and transparent can enhance knowledge sharing and foster learning across teams. Participants shared that they want to understand what previous research was done. They want to build up a knowledge base. Some participants note that it would be helpful if they're dealing with projects where they don't have too much expertise so they can learn more about the projects. And so in this case, the users need to build up a knowledge base. And some benefits include disseminating findings from others, fostering learning, and also informing new projects. The last quote is from a researcher, and they say, "So I've been wanting to find one of those reports for months now, and I have gone in there spelunking through the caves, and I haven't found it, and I need to go back." For the third insight, providing a straightforward way to access previous research can reduce the dependence on informal, less reliable methods and save time. Participants explain that they can save time and effort with a centralized repository versus having to look at maybe different or disparate sources. It's a way to understand nuggets of information without having actually conducted the research themselves and can be used as a short reference guide. So for the theme of findability, participants shared different potential design considerations, and I consolidated them into four key points. First, participants want a single place where research insights can be easily found and shared. Next, they want easy access to research insights without having too many permissions when doing so. Also, they want a variety of ways to organize the data, including filtering, searching, tagging, and also keywords. And lastly, they want an option for a simple way to review research insights, such as having an executive summary. So, the main purpose of this project was to really understand if this is something the Office of Customer Experience should continue. Do people really want an insights library? Would it actually be valuable? Would people even use it? So the answer is yes. But while users want an insights library, they also may have some hesitancies and tensions that we aim to address with our design considerations. So I recommend the next step of this project to be a prototype where our participants mention testing it with different varieties of users to understand what an insights library may actually look like. While I'm now handing off the project to my team, I created a plan for the next phase of research focusing on the prototype. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, I'll ask a question.
Yeah,
Okay, I know that it's only 15 minutes, so you didn't have time to go through the hour-long version, but were there any themes that surprised you, or I guess that you weren't expecting?
yeah. I'll go back to that slide actually. So I think for me, the most surprising thing is probably the communication and culture piece. It seems that there's not a lot of sharing going on between different teams or different offices, and I didn't really know it's not common to share your insights of others. That was a little bit surprising for me, but it does seem that a lot of people do want the possibility to share their findings, within GSA, but there's just not really an easy way to do so right now. So that was probably one of the most interesting themes that I was able to find. Thanks, Amy. Does anyone else have a question or comment?
Hey, Daniela, this is Steve Brockelman. I wonder, like, to that point of encouraging people to like, share their findings. I mean, I don't know that it's that they don't want to share their findings. It's just that it's kind of like, okay, I finished my project and now it's on to the next thing because I'm already behind on that project. Did you happen to ask or talk to anybody about like what incentives could be put in place by organizations to encourage people to share their findings or post them in a place where they're findable?
Yeah, the topic of incentives actually came up multiple times because people recognize that it could be really hard to change the way you conduct research and share research unless there's some sort of strategy in place or some sort of policy. And the most common comment is really just making it kind of not mandatory, but encouraged among the different offices where if you really tell people the benefits of sharing their research insights, like I mentioned, there's personas not only for researchers, but we also have people who do data, you have leadership people, or even like the academics. But I also found from talking to other people that even engineers would benefit from having an insights library. So really just having a way to communicate to the different offices that this is something useful and beneficial for pretty much everyone, I think is really important. Just really highlighting it's not just for researchers. And when I was conducting my literature review and the competitive analysis, the main thing I found is that most of these insights libraries were only targeted toward like researchers. But from my interviews, I found that researchers aren't the only ones using this information to inform their work. So I think that's really important. And thanks for the question, Steve. I appreciate it. It looks like there's 2 minutes left. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Sure, this was awesome to hear about. Um, I guess my question is, what type of user research had been conducted prior to you starting this project? As far as I could tell, this had been an ongoing focus of GSA, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about what they'd done and how your approach may have differed from GSA's current processes.
Yeah, so this project actually wasn't new when I joined. I kind of took it on. It was previously worked on by somebody on my team, but the research that was done, it wasn't as like user research focused when they were working on it. They really just started to conduct a primary literature review and really start writing out the competitive analysis to see, so what is an insights library? What does it mean when we're talking about research insights? What does that word mean? But there wasn't any sort of user research that was conducted yet. But I will say it was very helpful to see that material in order to build upon it for my own literature review. And thanks for your question, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the answer as well. Just absolutely, I'd love to hear what they thought of taking a more user-focused approach to product design like this early on.
Yeah.
But I think we're out of time.
Oh, yes. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was a very fun project.